Hi, my name is Gabby Grace, and I am Caprice Watt's daughter.
Hi, I'm Caprice Walk, and you're listening to 103.5 The Sun Community Radio, WLSP LP, Sun Prairie, Wisconsin.
El ídolo. Marcando la diferencia, lo de hoy, lo del momento. El centinela del espacio. La sombra. 100 almas. Tranquilo. Marcando la diferencia, lo de hoy, lo del momento, el ídolo, el centinela del espacio, la sombra, 100 almas, tranquilo. Marcando la diferencia, lo de hoy, lo del momento. El centinela del espacio. La sombra. 100 almas. Tranquilo.
Hello and welcome to another edition of the Schmozcast. I'm your host, Frony Omega. Joining me in the K-Sun studio, as per usual, we have Chandler Danielson and Andre Cien Martinez. Fellas, how we doing?
Yes. That means good.
Oh, okay. Thanks. Language barrier.
I'm doing all right. There's a lot of drama and friction in the Bullet Club, so that's a little disappointing to me. Not really. It's actually really cool.
You're unsettled.
Kayfabe, I'm bad, but real life, I'm great.
Good God. Well, that's what I like to hear. We have a very special 2-hour episode today where we're going to recap all of the awesomeness that happened last weekend as well as some of the not-so-awesome things that took place. Let's start off by giving you guys the results from the huge weekend in the city of Brother Love. We're going to start off with NXT TakeOver. Chandler, you want to read us down? We had 5 matches, and let us know who the winners are. And then we'll get into what happened and our thoughts, our opinions on how that all went down.
Yeah, so NXT TakeOver Philadelphia, we had the Undisputed Era retaining the Tag Team Championships against the Authors of Pain. Next up, we had Velveteen Dream getting a huge win over Cassius Ohno. Then next we had Ember Moon retaining her Women's Championship against Shayna Baszler. Thank God. Next we had
Total
Aleister.
Total Fox, dude.
Who, Ember, tell me about it. Yeah. Next, we had Aleister Black defeating Adam Cole in the first ever NXT Extreme Rules match. And finally, oh man, I have so many feelings about this match, and we're going to get into it. But Andrade Cien Almas successfully retained his NXT championship against Johnny Gargano in a Meltzer, a certified Meltzer 5-star match.
Pretty neat. Let's start off with the Undisputed Era. There was the first match of the night. They retain over the AOP. I think the AOP was replacing their match preparation with a focus on syllables and sounding it out, as Paul Ellering would say. Your guys' thoughts on this opening match for NXT?
I thought it was fantastic. It's, NXT has had an amazing tag team division for quite some time, and I was going into the match. I was totally over Authors of Pain being in the tag title picture, and I was ready for them to either move out of that position or get put up on the main roster. Either way, just get them out of the tag title picture. This match, it was weird because they got kind of a fan, or I'm sorry, they got a face reception from the fans the entire match. And it felt like it might have been their last match in NXT because a lot of times that's what happens. But they did a really good job against the Undisputed Era, and Undisputed Era retained, which is what I wanted to happen. But it was a great match, and it was it was weird to me to see how the fans received the Authors of Pain because they haven't really taken them that way up until now.
I really like Authors of Pain in the ring. Their gimmick to me is kind of bland, but otherwise I think they do a really good job as far as when they're in the ring of being who they are and being monsters and throwing people around and everything. But I don't know. It's weird. It's my opinion on Authors of Pain is really weird. Sometimes I like them, sometimes I don't.
Can I jump in and here's my feelings, and let me know if you agree with this, Andre. I really despise the Authors of Pain. When it comes to their matches at NXT takeovers, I think they're awesome. I think they do a really good job. They really rise to the occasion, and as much as I don't like the gimmick, I think that they bring it when it comes to takeovers, and that's when I feel like, that's when you need to bring your best, right? If you're in the NBA Finals, that's when you should be at your best. You gotta rise to the occasion, and the Authors of Pain do a great job of that. And so if it wasn't for their awesome matches at takeovers, I really would be so done with these guys and I'd never want to see them. But because they just bring their best when it matters the most. Is that fair to say?
I agree with that 100%. I think that's what I was trying to say in not as eloquent words as you just put it. But yeah, they bring it when they need to bring it. But I'm not.
The gimmick needs a little something more. We've seen too much of the militant big guys, or it's sort of like a Shield ripoff in a sort of way. I'm still not quite sure what it is or what they are. I do, but the matches that they have had, and you can say that they've all been very different matches at these takeovers over the last year and a half, 2 years since they've been in the tag team division. So I give them a lot of credit, and they've done it with a lot of different opponents. And then sometimes you can get by just being the big guys and not having to do as much. But they really do a good job of varying the matches. They've had different kind of matches, whether it be a triple threat or I do enjoy them at takeovers, and I think that's really what's most important. I just don't know exactly where they're going to fit on the main roster. Have they hit their ceiling, or are we going to see them at some point over the next few months on the main roster?
That's kind of something that I feel like they proved to me with this past takeover. I kind of felt the exact same way, like they had hit their ceiling and that there was not much more that they could do. But after this takeover, I feel like if you put them on Raw, SmackDown's tag division is the tag division in WWE right now. As good as NXT's is, SmackDown Live's tag division is it doesn't need anything else. You put them on Raw, you put them in the mix with the Bar, with the club, the Balor Club, with I don't know if Seth Rollins and Jason Jordan are a tag team anymore or not, but there's a few other teams that you could put them. But I say put them on Monday Night Raw.
Revival would be in there.
Revival,
and that's something
yes.
that I would actually be okay with them reviving that rivalry with the
Yes,
Revival.
yes.
When it comes to them being on Raw, and yeah, I think the Raw tag team division, especially because of injuries over the last couple months, and I know Jordan is dealing with an injury, and Ambrose went down, and so you have things haven't been as good as Raw would have liked for the tag team division. I think that they probably would help stabilize things a little bit. And they don't have the monsters the way they, like, I guess the Bludgeon Brothers are kind of that already on SmackDown. So maybe Raw would be the better spot for them. I might have to agree with you on that.
I think so. I think ultimately what AOP does on the main roster is what's going to be the deciding factor about, to me, as for how good they are as a tag team.
Well, let's move on to the second match of the night, and that was Velveteen Dream getting the win over Cassius Ohno. I was a little disappointed by this one. I love Velveteen Dream. I'm all in on the gimmick. I think that this one didn't quite live up to what I wanted to, but I'm not putting this on Velveteen Dream. I'm actually putting this on Cassius Ohno. I'll get more into that later. First, I want to hear your guys' thoughts.
I disagree. I thought the story that they told was perfect. The whole knockout. I'm going to knock you out within, what was it?
30 seconds,
30
he
seconds.
said.
And he did. Technically, he knocked him out. He was on the canvas for 10. Did he get a 10 count?
He
Something
got a
like
10
that?
count, yeah.
But he didn't cover him, so he didn't win the match that early. But I liked it. It was Cassius Ohno. He's another guy that I'm kind of up and down on. Sometimes I really enjoy watching him. Sometimes I don't. I felt the match between the dichotomy, the word I'm trying to use, the dichotomy between him and Velveteen Dream was perfect. And for the spot on the card, for what it was, for the story it needed to tell, I thought it was great. I mean, it could have been better. It's not Velveteen Dream's best match by far or anything like that, but it was still a really good, entertaining match and did what it needed to do for its spot on the card and for the story that the two were telling. And it got Velveteen Dream a W, which I think he needed, and I thought that was the best part about it.
That's a fair point on Velveteen Dream. It was good for him to get the win after losing last time to Aleister Black, so it does maybe help his credibility a little bit. Chandler, what do you think about this one? Is getting a win over Cassius Ohno that big a deal because he is, as they've said, the gatekeeper of NXT in many ways?
I think it was a good thing for Velveteen Dream. I enjoyed the match. I thought it was great. Velveteen Dream's his gear was on point as always. He had the boxer like shorts with the airbrush of him doing the Muhammad Ali standing over his fallen opponent, and then after the match when he got the win, he stood there and did that exact pose in the ring, and it was I laughed so hard. But I mean, yeah, I thought it was a good match. I really enjoyed it. There was a couple spots in the match that it felt like they might have been botches. They might have kind of stumbled here or there, but they cleaned up and recovered from it really, really well. And I think that this was absolutely needed for Velveteen Dream to get the win, and he got it. So it's weird to me too that it feels so fresh. The last match, like it feels like it just happened like a week or two ago, but it was at Survivor Series, right? That weekend, that was the weekend.
Yeah, that would have had to been because that would have been War Games.
Yeah,
and probably because we've rewatched
we
it for
watched
the
it so many
schmozzies
times
and everything.
I mean, it's just such a fantastic match. Him and Aleister Black, but yeah, it was great. I thoroughly enjoyed that match.
Here's what I think my issue is. So I have no problems with Velveteen Dream. I'm all in on this guy. Everything he does is perfection, and no one has like. I liked the idea of the gimmick at first, but I didn't think the execution was great, and now I think it is maybe the best gimmick in wrestling. I'm not a big Cassius Ohno fan, guys. What I like about him is the music and which jersey is he going to wear of a team that I liked between now and when I was born in '88. You know, like he does a great job, and I do really enjoy that. However, I think he's out of shape. I think that he's lazy. I think that he's really not one of my favorite wrestlers. There's a reason that he was not on NXT or was basically gone for the company for a while. I mean, 10 years ago when he was Chris Hero, sure, putting on some classics 15 years ago against CM Punk that were some of the best indie matches. Yeah, I'd love to go back and watch those, but he's never done anything for me that I have fallen in love with. And I just like, there's been other wrestlers who I think have been not the classic wrestling body. Kevin Owens, who can wrestle. Mick Foley, who can take an ass kicking and take awesome bumps and was great on the mic and played these different characters that made you fall in love with guys like him and Kevin Owens. I don't have that affinity for Cassius Ohno. You got to be more than a music and a jersey, you know. But I feel bad that I don't know. I don't want to just sit here and crap on him, but I'm just not big on Cassius Ohno right now. I think that he's same thing as. If AOP haven't hit their ceiling, I think this is Cassius Ohno's ceiling right here.
I think that's absolutely fair to say. Everything that you said, watching his matches, it does feel like he's just kind of complacent. And yes, he's back with the WWE. He's back in NXT, but it doesn't feel inspired a lot of times. And this match is a shining example of that because Velveteen Dream did everything that he could. He did everything in this match, and
that's why I have nothing bad to say about this.
He did a great job in this match, but at the same time, on the other side of the coin, Cassius Ohno didn't hold up his end of the match as well as Velveteen Dream did.
I mean, I'm not a huge fan of Cassius Ohno either. I'm not going to go out and say that he's lazy because I don't know. I don't have an insight into his personal life and what's going on behind the scenes and all that stuff. So I don't want to say that he's lazy per se, but I don't really enjoy watching his matches all that much unless it's against someone that I really want to see, like in this case Velveteen Dream. But otherwise his matches are kind of okay. I'll watch it if he's fighting someone or wrestling someone that I like, but if not, if it's on a takeover, I'll watch it. We'll put it that way. But if it's on regular NXT, it's something that I might not always watch. And I don't know.
A main roster ceiling for me for Cassius Ohno would be like the 4th or 5th guy in a stable. I think that if he played the Alexander Wolf, not necessarily that same role, but in terms of hierarchy in a stable, then maybe. But I don't know. Give him a tag team partner or something because I'm really not sold on this right now. But
I think he'd be great in a tag team if they got the right kind of team.
Yeah.
I think that would be his
someone
shining
short,
spot for
someone
him.
smaller and faster. I think Mandrews or something like that. I think that would be kind of fun. But guys who are straight baby faces, that I just think that would work better. And then Ono also wouldn't have to have the stamina too that I think he lacks. And I'm not trying to crap on the guy. I've never gotten in the ring before, but this is a fan show, and as a fan, that's what I see. This is how I feel. But let's move on to Chandler's future wife, Shayna Baszler, losing to Ember Moon. Surviving is what Shayna Baszler said that Amber Moon did. Shayna Baszler, she's supposedly the queen of spades. Is she in fact spayed or neutered? From your
Don't know, don't care. Next question.
If Natalia is the queen of hearts and Baszler is the queen of spades, does that make Carl Anderson's hot Asian wife the queen of clubs?
Oh yes, absolutely.
We're gonna be tweeting that out after the show.
Yes, that was fantastic. Thank you for that.
So good match though, good story told. I think this was a solid women's match, and the way it was going, I was surprised that Ember Moon won, but they did a good job. And then she, the next day, still was selling the arm in the Royal Rumble. So I think that was a well-played weekend for Ember Moon. She got to make her main roster debut in the Royal Rumble as NXT Women's Champion. And Baszler doesn't look bad by the way the match went at all. So she's still built like a brick crap house, I guess, if you will. So I guess a success on both ends for these two women.
I would say so. This match was really, really good. The finish to the match was crazy. That was one of the longest submission holds I can think of, at least in recent memory for WWE. And it was back and forth. Finally, Ember Moon did get the pinfall victory, turning the cross arm breaker into rolling her up, getting the quick 3 count. And the entire match, as you said, it was kind of surprising that Ember Moon won because Shayna Baszler was in control the entire match, and she was on that arm that she had in the submission hold the entire match. She was working that arm the whole time, and it didn't look like Ember Moon was going to be able to win, but somehow, some way, she pulled off the victory and retained her title.
Andre, in many ways, or it just reminds me of a football game a little bit. Like whoever wins the time of possession can typically be the winner of the game. But that was not the case. I would say that Shayna Baszler would have been the winner in terms of time of possession, where she was leading the match for most of the match. But Ember Moon ultimately is your winner.
Yeah, that's a really good analogy. Actually, she did control the game, if you want to call it that. She did control the match. She was dominant, you could say, and I really liked the way that they told the story there. That's the second time I've said this during the show, but I really liked the story they told, and I really liked the way that Ember Moon, like Baszler said, she didn't win, she survived, and the booking of that finish was perfect. When she was in the submission, I was hoping in my head, I was like, I hope that she squeaks out and retains the title. I honestly thought they were gonna take the title off of her, the way that was looking. And then when she rolled her up and got the pin, I was like, that's awesome. I loved it. I'm not a big Baszler fan either. And heading into the match, I wasn't a big fan of hers. But I'm still not the biggest fan of hers. But this match has gone a long way into trying to turn the tide on how I feel about her. A lot of that has to do with Ember Moon, because Ember Moon is fantastic, and she proved it again in that match. I do want to say one thing. That Shayna Baszler elbow stomp thing, that looks really dangerous. I don't know if they're just selling it
scary.
But it's
so scary.
I'm afraid that someone's going to dislocate an elbow every time I see her do it. I mean, she's only done it, 2 or 3 times now, but each time was brutal looking. Ugh.
The one time, I mean, the girl was maybe like double jointed or something, or maybe they already knew that she had to get surgery or something, and they're like, well, we'll just break it a little bit more. You know what I mean? So they're like, well, we'll just throw her out there. But okay, roll-ups usually suck, but this was the time to do a roll-up. I think it fit really well. And then when you talk about how, you said already that that Velveteen Dream and Cashzona was a good story. I think that's really the main difference between all these NXT takeovers and matches compared to the WWE pay-per-views. They don't seem rushed. The story takes time to develop. They are well-told stories. I think that is maybe the big difference between why NXT pay-per-views are so much better than your main roster pay-per-views. I think it is the storytelling and the time.
And I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that they have one every how many months? There's 4 a year, 5 a year.
I believe it's 5. They do one for every Big Four, and then they threw one in Chicago last May, which I think that makes I guess that's about right. 5 a year.
And I think that has a lot to do with it, because I think, and I could be wrong, I've never stepped in the ring like you said. None of us have, unless Chandler's got a secret that we don't know about. But
Nope.
I feel like if you get a pay-per-view and you screw up, okay, you got another pay-per-view 12 months in a month from now. You got 12 pay-per-views a year basically on the main roster. They might be cutting down in 2018. I hope they do, because that's going to make it better. But when you got a pay-per-view, or NXT, I guess it's a pay-per-view, but a special event or whatever they want to call it, you got one. It's Saturday. You got it tonight, and the next time you got a chance of that is several months down the road. You're making all of this opportunity, and you're going to take some risks and do some things, and which we're going to probably talk about when we talk about Black and Cole, probably the most dangerous thing that I've ever seen. But we'll, in WWE at least, we'll talk about that at that match. And I think that having these only 5 times a year makes them very special, and makes every single one of the talent performing on that card step up and try to go above and beyond.
Before we get to this Black and Cole match, I want to talk about Baszler a little bit more. I know that's disappointing for some of us, but in terms of being a heel that you're supposed to hate, she's the best at it. Remember, can you guys recall a time where you hated a female wrestler as much as you hate or strongly dislike Baszler right now? Can you name someone and a time? I can think of maybe 2, but it's been a long time. It's really since probably I was in middle school or in early high school years that I hated someone so much, and that's why I have this crazy respect for her too, because she's gotten me to despise her.
I can't think of anyone in recent memory that male or female, that I dislike as much as I dislike Shayna Baszler. But you're absolutely right. At the same time, I'm supposed to not like her, and that means she's doing something right.
Absolutely.
Are we talking kayfabe? Because there's someone that I hated kayfabe, but I absolutely adore this.
Bring it on. No, perfect.
Excuse me.
Okay.
That's great.
Yep.
From everything I hear, she's the greatest human being behind the scenes. But her character, and I love this about her, I hate her character in a good way. It's not in a way where I don't want to watch her or I turn her off. It's like, I hate her, but I want to watch because I want to see what's going to happen to her. And
you want to see her get hers.
Mm-hmm. And she's got that. She's got her character down. So I think that's the last person I can think of. But then again, that's someone that I understand what she's trying to do, and I appreciate it. But maybe that's what Shayna Baszler is trying to do too, and we just got to give it some time. I don't know. So
Jazz comes to mind. I hated Jazz.
I was a huge fan.
Really?
Of Jazz. She was so talented in the ring. I absolutely huge fan of Jazz.
I wanted to see her actually show up on. I feel like she's sort of forgotten, but she shouldn't be, just because it was at a time when there was only 4 or 5 female wrestlers, and she really was super talented. But I did just hate her, and that was.
But you were supposed
that
to,
was
because
the goal.
She was a heel. Yes.
Yeah. And then Ivory in Right to Censor would be another one that I really just
Everyone in Right to Censor was
gosh.
awesome.
Yes,
Yeah, the
yes.
entire Right to Censor.
And
But
the worst entrance music, or just the most annoying.
it wasn't even music.
It wasn't even music.
It wasn't music.
It was just a
was
wake up alarm
yeah.
or a fire's going off
Yep,
or something.
Yep, a fire alarm. That's all it was.
I know we're talking about females, but as far as males that you hated, I think Val Venus and the Good Father in Right to Censor were just blasphemous in a sense. Oh, I hated that so
Father.
bad. As a how old was I? I was still a teen, so I hated that.
Yeah, that was the worst because they were that was right at the end, kind of transition from Attitude Era to Ruthless Aggression, like right in there, really near the end of Attitude Era, I would say. But they were the anti-Attitude Era stable in the Attitude Era. So they did a great job because when they came out, man, I just couldn't wait for someone to really like sock it to them, man. I despised the Right to Censor, but that was a success because that was the whole point. So they got me. Fourth match of the night, we had Aleister Black defeating Adam Cole in an Extreme Rules contest. I never thought I would be like I'm past the hardcore thing, and I think in a lot of ways I am, and it still is fun to go back and watch stuff from ECW or when the hardcore division in WWE was a thing, and WWF of course. But these guys really brought it. It was very well done. It wasn't like gratuitous violence. It was done in a way that I think was still wrestling art form. And I won't say that this one stole the show because the main event was out of this world, but this one was really great in some really great spots, whether it be Aleister Black falling off the top onto the tables that I forgot were even there. And they played it well because in this situation, you know you're going to get the "we want tables," and Adam Cole's like, "You're going to get them, baby!" So I don't know. I thought it was well done. I think that it's good to have it as one match and not a whole pay-per-view of Extreme Rules matches where you're just like, okay, yeah. So, and these are guys, especially Black, that you want to see in this situation. Like it seems to me that it would make sense for his character to be in this situation.
Yeah, this match was absolutely fantastic. Like you said, it's hard to put it above the main event, the title match, but it's right up there. And there were definitely spots in this match, as you said, Aleister Black going through the two tables outside of the ring, and the spot of the night, the spot of the weekend, the spot of possibly the history of NXT. Adam Cole taking what was pretty much a Death Valley driver on top of two chairs that the backs are facing each other.
Never seen that before.
And he continued the match. And not only did he continue the match, the next night he debuted in the Royal Rumble with his ribs all taped up, of course. And he comes out holding his ribs and throwing up one hand, Adam Cole, baby. But I could not believe that spot. And it was, oh man,
I swear that the fans after that spot, after he took that on the back on the two chairs, kind of back to back, forking, not spooning, that the crowd chanted, "You deserve it." So
those Philly fans are brutal.
So good though.
That Death Valley driver onto the two chair tops was probably the most dangerous thing I've ever seen in WWE. I say that as WWE because there were some things in the WWF that have been more dangerous than that. But I think that was the most dangerous thing that we've seen, at least in this modern era. I can't believe he took that. That was.
Would you rather do that or jump off a Hell in the Cell though onto a table twice in a year and a half if you're Shane McMahon?
The table at least is
crash pad and whatnot.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't want to take either of them. I'm afraid of heights, so I couldn't make it up top.
Shaky legs. Yeah,
I couldn't do it. I couldn't jump. I wouldn't be able to. My legs would. I'd probably slip and fall and break my neck or something. But I wouldn't want to take that spot that Adam Cole took either, because I'd probably break my back there as well. So I think it's a lose-lose situation. I would not want to take any of them. I'd rather have a Stinkface or a Sacco or something like that. Than
you wanna join the Kiss My Ass Club?
Oh man, I wouldn't want to do that either. I don't know if I could.
If you had to choose, okay, here we go. Let's do poll time. All right, you have to take a Stinkface, or you have to join the Kiss My Ass Club, or you have to jump off a Hell in the Cell, or take the Adam Cole spot, baby.
No Sacco option?
No, that's the you clearly would take that one. But if it was like Meng doing the Meng hold, man, I don't know. That scares the crap out of me too.
I honestly, out of all of those,
Go ahead, kiss my ass.
how? Yeah, I was gonna say how. What's the status of Rikishi? Does he like you? Does he not like you?
Hasn't showered in a week.
Then I'm doing the Kiss My Ass Club. Come on now. Oh my gosh.
And never saw a wet wipe in his life.
TMI, baby. TMI.
Okay. So we mentioned that's the chair spot with Cole, but man, the spot that comes to my mind would be Aleister Black doing, I guess, a springboard moonsault, and Adam Cole getting him just at the right time with the kendo
That
stick
was awesome.
upside down to the solar plexus. To
that
me,
was early in the match too.
that to me was maybe the spot of the weekend. But yeah, I get the chair one is great too. But that's the one that comes to my mind because you have to hit it perfectly.
And they did.
And the sound and everything, it was unbelievable. And then for Aleister Black to still land it too, to me that was maybe the most awe-inspiring moment of the weekend in terms of a move or a spot.
That's definitely, yes. Those were, in my opinion, the two high spots of the match was the Death Valley driver onto the chairs and that.
Both these guys are incredible professional wrestlers, and if it wasn't for the main event, that match would have definitely stolen the show for sure.
Well, let's talk about that main event. Johnny Gargano fails to defeat Andrade Cien Almas in an instant classic for the NXT title. Dave Meltzer ranks this as a 5-star match, the first 5-star match since Punk and Cena and Money in the Bank in 2011 in Chicago. I thought that Cena Styles was 5-star last year, but it was actually 4.75 at Royal Rumble back in 2017. Man, this one, if this gets a 5-star rating, you guys are on board with this?
Absolutely.
I 100% am on board with it. And I just want to say that I have my own star rating system, and I gave this match 5 stars before Dave Meltzer did. Just for the record, I gave this match 5 stars as like the day I saw it. But yes, I am totally on board with it. It was the match of the night, best match of the weekend. Cien Almas is a future superstar. Strap the rocket on him and shoot him to the top. I mean, do it slow, do it right, but. Him and Velveteen Dream are future superstars on the main roster. I think in 5 years or so, definitely Cien, he's going to have a world title or at least be a main eventer. He's got everything. He's got everything as far as in the ring and out of the ring. He's got the attitude, the character, the cockiness. It's just, I'm all aboard the Cien Almas train. He's the man, and Johnny Wrestling's great too. I just don't see him going as far as Cien Almas. I don't see him being as good as Cien Almas, but I still think he's great. And the two of them together, it was a great match.
No, I can see Gargano being the NXT champion at some point. I can see Gargano being U.S. title or IC at some point. Cien Almas, to me, his ceiling is as far as WWE can go. He can be Universal at some point. I think you do have to keep Zelina Vega with him. I think the mouthpiece is something that we don't see as much. And his English isn't perfect yet, but that's something that can certainly improve over time. But the story they've told, if you think about it, it's almost it goes back to 2017, around this time when he didn't care about losing. It didn't matter to him. He was partying, he's in limos with girls, and none of this stuff mattered. And then he started to turn around, as I've said before, it's the Johnny Manziel character that I always wanted to see in wrestling. They actually made it happen, and they've done it to absolute perfection. Cien Almas is the man. I think he can wrestle any style too. He's been a luchador. Now he's the main event top heel. I think that it's just everything has worked out as good as it possibly could have, and I think by I'll say SummerSlam that he will be a main roster debut at some point here. I'm sorry, he already made his main roster debut. He will be on the Raw or SmackDown roster on a permanent basis come SummerSlam.
I think that's fair to say. It's only a short matter of time, not just a matter of time, but a short matter of time until he's on the main roster. Both of these guys, Andrade and Gargano, proved so much to me in this match. I kind of thought Cien was going to be just a transitional champion in NXT.
This was my biggest worry. Was that it was just a one takeover to another.
Yep.
And I know a lot of people wanted to see Gargano kind of fight through and
he's
win
that
it, but
pure babyface,
which is great.
It's really, I'm kind of surprised that Cien retained. I'm not upset. I'm not mad. Either way it could have gone, I would have been happy because I'm a huge fan of both of these guys. But honestly, as I said, I thought that Cien was going to be just that transitional champion that held the title from one takeover to the next. and especially as with Johnny Gargano being the babyface that he is, it would have been, I guess, easy booking if to put the title on him, but they didn't do that. They kept it that with with Cien retaining, and it was a instant classic match. And as much as important, as great as the match itself was, there were some things that happened after the match that were insane.
Yes, I just want to point out, according to Dave Meltzer, he rated the match solely on the match because someone asked him on Twitter, was it the aftermath part of it? He said, nope, it was all the match. So he believed that was a 5-star match.
And it was.
And it definitely was. But as far as Gargano winning, I'm glad they didn't, because as Frony said, they had this storyline with Almas for a year now, with Zelina Vega coming and taking him out of the funk of being the party animal that didn't care about wins and losses, just having a good time, spending money and all that good stuff. And now he's built himself up to the champion. I think it's too soon to take the title off of him after you've built him up from that. And you know me, I've said it before, I feel like a broken record, but I love those long, slow burn storylines, and that is definitely one of them. And I think you got to keep it on him till at least the next NXT TakeOver, or maybe after. But as you guys both said, he's not long for NXT, so I wouldn't be surprised if he loses anytime soon, because he's going to jump up to the main roster. I'd love to see him have a match at WrestleMania, but I don't think it's going to happen. But I love Cien. I could talk about him all day, but I'll stop now because we got a whole show.
My biggest worry was that Johnny Gargano, and not that I dislike him at all, to me it wasn't time yet, and not as much as it is for Johnny I didn't want him to be the champion, is that I think Almas deserves it to have it longer, and they've just done everything so well that I didn't want to see them ruin it. And like you said, Chandler, transitional champion, I don't think that is fitting of Almas and what he's done and where he's at right now. So I thought that I was kind of in my lonesome about being one of the only people who actually wanted Almas to retain. But
no.
But apparently not, and I'm surprised but glad to hear that, and I think this is the way to go.
We, in talking about how great this match was in 5 stars, we kind of didn't point out the fact that Candice LeRae also got involved attacking Zelina Vega, which was a really cool spot. I thoroughly enjoyed seeing that, and it was great, the pop that she got.
And they teased it a little bit beforehand, and that was the second time, I think, only that they have mentioned that is Johnny's real life wife, and her being in the front row with her mom or his mom. I kept waiting for it. I'm thinking, okay, they're going to have to work this in at some point, and they did, and it was at a perfect time. It was very well done. And then the running through the crowd, it was all great, man. Everything that I wanted them to fit in and more, they got in. The match, I would actually like to know how long the match was. It seemed like it went on for a long time, but I don't mean that in a bad way. It was great. It was, I can't, 5 stars, man. I'm totally on board with this. This is one of the best WWE matches that I think we've ever seen, and it continues to happen in NXT and not on the main roster. At some point, you think, hopefully with Vince McMahon's focus shifting towards the XFL, that this is the future, and the future's coming hopefully a lot sooner than we had imagined.
Absolutely. Let's kind of talk about what happened after the match.
Bring it on.
Because as awesome and as important as everything as this match was, after the match, Johnny Gargano was at the top of the ramp with Candice LeRae. She helped him walk up the ramp. They're arm in arm, and he's looking out to the crowd. Him and Candice LeRae are at the top of the stage, looking out to the crowd, and just out of nowhere, he gets cracked in the back with a crutch, and then the camera pans over, and none other than Tommaso Ciampa. After everything that Johnny Gargano had gone through, Tommaso Ciampa is still there to be like, yeah, no, you're still nothing compared, nothing to me. And I just, oh man, the feelings, just everything about that match, the everything with Cien Almas leading up to that match, the story that was told with him being the party animal, turning into the champion, being able to retain the title in this high profile of a match, the story that was told there. Then you have this other story of Johnny Gargano rising up from not being able to even focus on a match because of everything that happened with DIY and Tommaso Ciampa breaking up with him. And then to have Tommaso Ciampa come out and attack him again. And I feel like it's just gonna put him back in that sunken place once again, and I can't wait to see what happens, and I can't wait to see how he's going to react to this, and if he does or does not go back to just that pit of despair that he was in.
I am so glad that they're picking this feud back up, because I was really, really disappointed when Ciampa got hurt when he did, because that feud just was getting started, and sometimes that can be the worst thing for a feud that has the potential that this feud does, because we haven't even seen it. It hasn't even started to scratch the surface. And to have him be gone for so long and for him to pick up right where he left off between those two, I think is perfect booking. And I'm glad that they're going to go this route with the former DIY tag teammates as opposed to Gargano winning and something else. So I was really excited to see that. I'm glad that he hit him with and that was a hell of a shot. His back after the match was red. You're right. He's a perfect babyface. Crawling up with Candice, the dried blood on his lips, and him in pain and all that. It just, the visual was perfect, and then to have it crushed by his former teammate was awesome. I'm looking forward to this Ciampa and Gargano feud that we're about to see.
If you think back to last May in Chicago when the breakup happened, it's really, I want to say, the third time in 8 months where WWE had a tag team partner either scheduled to turn on the other one, or the turn had already happened and then one of them got injured. So you have that one that we're talking about, Gargano and Ciampa, Big Cass and Enzo, when Big Cass goes out of the ring and hurts, I think it was the knee, right? And then Ambrose, too, with Rollins. You think at some point that was going to be a build-up to those two.
They were supposed to wrestle at Mania.
Yeah, and I think Ambrose was actually going to turn heel and turn Rollins.
And on top of that, Jordan might not be able to wrestle because he's got some back and neck stuff, too.
So that's 4 in 8 months, which is just insane. But back to the match. The double knee spot, the way that's why Gargano is such a great babyface, a white meat babyface in a time when it's so hard to be a crowd favorite, a fan favorite, and a white meat babyface. Look at Jason Jordan. He couldn't pull it off, and now because of that, he's the Flex Kavana, Rocky Maivia, like that kind of thing that we got back in 96, 97 from The Rock, because he was so much that white meat babyface that people just turned on him. Jason Jordan's doing a great job of playing that to his advantage, but Gargano just gets it, man, and the crowd is so behind him, and the way he sells the double knee outside of the ring up against the post was just perfect, and the glazed eyes and just dazed and confused, and he still gets the sympathy pop afterwards, which is a perfect time for Ciampa to come back. Man, it was just beautiful. Cage Side referred to Johnny Gargano as wrestling's Charlie Brown this week, which I thought was so perfect and funny. Good grief, exactly. So I thought that was pretty special. Anything else about this match? I also like that it's not a special rules of any kind. I know we talked about the Extreme Rules or hardcore match that Black and Cole put on, but this is just a good old fashioned wrestling match, and I think that's
one of my favorite things about this match.
It was just a straight-up match. And if you told somebody kind of the backstory, that this would be a fun one to help someone understand the art form that is wrestling that people don't quite get when they think it's kind of a trashy television or whatever you want to call it. But I think you could point to this match and say, look at what these guys can do. This is why I like wrestling.
There's one more thing I do want to mention. So far for 2018, the best entrance of the year has to have been Cien Almas with the Mexican colors on his trunks and the mask.
The mariachi band.
The mariachi band.
The Lucha everything. Mariachi band, because they were wearing masks.
They were wearing masks,
so perfect.
Too.
And he came out with the La Sombra mask.
Yep.
Man.
It was awesome. It was great.
Yeah, so much credit to that. NXT just is it's the best when it comes to WWE, man. It's really, and I think in wrestling it's New Japan and it's NXT if you want to break WWE into parts. I think those are your top two. NXT tells better stories top to bottom, and whereas I think in New Japan, and some of it is a language barrier and translation and stuff like that, it's great in-ring product, and still Kenny Omega and some of these Okada matches are still great stories. But if you're looking at a full card, I think you can walk into NXT and not have and get a little bit of the prepackage and just be as in as possible. Whereas New Japan, it's look at what these guys can do in the ring.
I definitely feel like a bit of that is the language barrier, but at the same time, I agree with you absolutely. It's NXT, the way that they tell stories, and especially with the past, I would say at least 3 or 4 takeovers, the stories leading up to those, it's just no there. I don't think there's anything better as far as storytelling goes with their matches. Not only the matches themselves, but leading into the matches as well. It's just they do such a good job with that.
Speaking of NXT, did you guys hear that Jeremy Borash is going to be working for NXT? And on top of that, either The Torch or Cage Side Seats or The Observer, one of those three, is reporting that Triple H is kind of building a team for himself in NXT so that when he eventually takes over at the main roster, he's going to bring those guys along. And Jeremy Borash is part of the brains behind the Broken Universe. So I think we're just going to see even better and better stuff for NXT. And I'm actually hoping that the XFL becomes the biggest thing in the world and Vince McMahon is forced to not focus on wrestling so much and put all of his time and attention to the XFL and promote one Hunter Hearst Helmsley, a.k.a. Paul Levesque, to take over the main roster. And I think we'd see a lot of cool stuff. But that's just fantasy hopefulness.
Well, as a tease, I think that this is going to lead into why the Rumble went down the way it did. I think that there are seeds planted of maybe McMahon having his focus in other places based on some of the things and the winners we got. So we're going to take a break in a little bit here, and when we come back, we're going to talk all things Royal Rumble and things that happen in WWE after starting Sunday and beyond. But before we do, and I want to get to a few more points about NXT though. Can you give us a little background on Borash? You said that he was with TNA or Impact during the kind of one of the brainchilds behind the Broken gimmick, but he also had a former stint in WWE that ended not so well, if I'm not mistaken.
That I don't know.
I think that he was a bullying. Was
he? Because I know that he's been with TNA and Impact since like 2002. He's been there forever. So I know he's been in Impact since 2002. From everything I've read, he wore a lot of hats in TNA and in Impact, and he did a lot of things behind the scenes. Both Jeff Hardy and Matt Hardy have given him a lot of credit for a lot of the way that the Broken Universe stuff was filmed. You know, the ideas, a lot of the ideas came from Matt and Jeff, but the way that it was filmed, and there was a lot. I mean, who knows what happened behind the scenes, but according to those two, he was big, he was huge for a lot of things they did, and he did a lot in TNA, and there's a lot of people that have in the past said that if he goes to WWE, that'll be a huge get for WWE, and he's in WWE. So I'm looking forward to see what happens. I know he's in NXT. I really hope that he gets involved with the Hardy, the Woken stuff, though. That would be my ultimate dream. I mean, he can focus on NXT, but just take a little bit of time out of the week and help Woken Matt and Brother Nero to recreate some of that magic.
Yeah, I think it would be silly not to use Borash in that way while you have him. A few last things on NXT before we hit the break. No Nigel McGuinness. Apparently, he was under the weather. I was disappointed that Percy Jackson didn't have more flubs on commentary. He was actually quite bearable, which sadly bodes well for him to continue his commentary. Too bad. I was really hoping his tenure was close to being over, but not over in the Finn Balor way of being over. Well, that does it for NXT, at least for now. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about all the things that happened at the Rumble, our thoughts, our ratings, and some other things that went on this week, some returns, some goodbyes. All that good stuff is coming up in just a little bit here, so stick around. In the meantime, this is our theme song. This is Villainy of Thieves with their song Improvised Dub. We're back here at the Schmozcast right here on 103.5, the Sun WLSP LP, Sun Prairie, Wisconsin. You can catch us, of course, on sunprairiemediacenter.com and our social media pages.
Yeah, you can find us. Follow us on Instagram and in Twitter and Facebook at the Schmozcast, and you can also subscribe to us on YouTube.
That's right. On YouTube, we're getting closer and closer to having more video shows up right now. We're actually recording right now to put up a video for our YouTube page. We have one from a couple weeks ago. Last week's show should be up there hopefully in the next couple days. You'll be able to catch the Royal Rumble previews and all that good stuff that we did last week as well as this week in our special back-to-back 2-hour blowout episodes. Royal Rumble took place last Sunday. We're going to give you the results and then talk quite a bit about that. So Chandler's going to give us the rundown on what happened last Sunday night at the Royal Rumble in Philadelphia.
Yeah, we had 3 matches on the pre-show. The first match was a cruiserweight 6-man tag match. We had Kalisto, Grand Metalik, and Lince Dorado defeating Drew Gulak, TJP, and Jack Gallagher. Then next we had The Revival beating The Club. And finally, Mojo Rawley answered the Bobby Roode U.S. Open Challenge, and Bobby Roode successfully defended his title. And next up, we had on the main card itself, the show started off with the WWE Championship match where AJ Styles successfully defended against both Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn. Next, we had the Usos going 2 straight out of 3 falls match over Chad Gable and Shelton Benjamin, so they got 2 straight falls in this match. Next up, we had the Men's Royal Rumble match where Shinsuke Nakamura outlasted 30 other superstars to become your 2018 Royal Rumble winner. Also, he netted me a little bit of money because we had a little pot going and I won that. Next, we had Sheamus and Cesaro regaining their Raw Tag Team Championships over Seth Rollins and Jason Jordan. So they are now 5-time Tag Team Champions, Raw Tag Team Champions, I want to say. 4 or 5, I can't remember off the top of my head.
Yeah, it's 4 or 5.
Next up, we had Brock Lesnar defending his Universal Championship against Kane and who was the other one? Braun Strowman. Wow. Kane and Braun Strowman and Brock Lesnar retained the title. Then also there was I already said the other tag match. Sorry. Next, finally, we had the first ever 30-woman Royal Rumble match that Asuka won and outlasted 30 other women's competitors to become the first ever women's Royal Rumble winner. Wow, that was hard to say.
I'm the one who typed this up, so this is it's not like Chandler's reading his own words here. That's on me. Okay, so let's talk about things from the beginning. The pre-show, yeah, it happened. We got Mojo Rawley. The Revival beat the Club. That's I guess
there were cruiserweights involved.
But
pre-show was pre-show.
Yeah, pre-show was pre-show. We started off with AJ Styles defeating Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens in a handicap match.
Can we talk about how disappointing the Open Challenge was? I was hoping it was going to be someone
of any consequence,
either a Y2J or a Dolph Ziggler or Mojo. Just no offense to Mojo, he's working really hard to get himself over with the YouTube and Twitter promos that he puts online, which his promos that he puts online are better than the promos that he does on TV, by the way. But I was hoping it would be someone else. And when you have an open challenge, especially open challenge, even if it's on the kickoff show, but if you have an open challenge on a pay-per-view, especially a Big 4, now Big 5 pay-per-view, and you have a surprise or an open challenge, it has to be someone of more consequence, someone of bigger name. No offense to Mojo, but someone that is going to actually, I don't know. Even if it was on the pre-show, it just still was very disappointing, very weak.
It was, absolutely. They dropped the ball with this. If it's an open challenge, it should be a surprise return. It should be someone you didn't think it was going to be. It shouldn't be someone that you didn't want to see. Yeah, this was a huge mistake by having it Mojo. It
Even
almost
Zack
makes
Ryder would have been better than Mojo.
Absolutely. No, I think that would have been so much better. I think that, yeah, it was not very well done. It makes me think that they had something else in line that fell apart, that they decided to go in a different direction.
I heard it was Ziggler, but then they changed it to have him be
that's
number
all,
30.
and that's what I was thinking too. And then it makes you wonder that did Ty Dillinger had his spot taken by Sami Zayn? Did that change? Was that also thrown in there because because I mean, there's not really a Zayn Dillinger feud, and I guess it makes me think that was thrown in to make it make sense to get Dillinger out of there to put in Ziggler.
I think that to me felt like it was done because they had ultimately planned on having KO or Zayn go in, but they wanted to put him in at the 10 spot because the whole 10,
Right.
that's his gimmick. But I don't necessarily know they wanted him in the match, so that's a cheap way of getting the getting his theme song as the 10 spot comes up and all that, but then to get him out of the match and put Sami Zayn in and set up more tension with the Sami's Cammy team.
Oh gosh. And Chandler, if Ty Dillinger was to be announced by Greg Hamilton, what would it sound like?
He is a perfect 10.
Gosh, that is just my absolute favorite. Everything on the Rumble outside of the 2 Rumble matches seemed very rushed. Seemed very. They didn't give it the time. Once again, that's the big difference between your NXT and your WWE pay-per-views. AJ Styles, Sami Zayn, and Kevin Owens, though, this did seem like they did the right thing in giving them the right time. That's why it was the right move, I think, to put them on first and to continue to build this, once again, a slow burn storyline. So I give them credit for that. It wasn't a spectacular match. It was 3 guys that I really enjoy and are 3 of the best in-ring wrestlers in WWE or the world. And I love all 3 of these guys. It's hard not to. I don't know if it'll be super memorable going forward, but they did a good job of the storytelling, so it didn't make the handicap look as bad because Owens wasn't legal at the time. So everyone comes out smelling okay. Everyone smells like roses, I guess, and doesn't come out any diminished stature in what the new top 10 of SmackDown could look like next week.
I felt that they did a really good job of continuing the story of Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn throughout the night of the Royal Rumble, because Kevin Owens is the one that took the loss, took the pinfall to AJ Styles, and then later in the night, as you guys mentioned, Sami Zayn is the one that took Ty Dillinger's spot, and he kind of bogarted his way past Kevin Owens and said, no, I got this, goes out and ends up getting eliminated and doesn't win the Royal Rumble. So they both kind of came up short that night, and I thought that they did a really good job of telling that story. As far as this match itself goes, I agree with you. It wasn't necessarily the best match. It wasn't at all by any means a bad match. These are definitely 3 of my favorite doing it in the entire world today. But yeah, it was a good enough match, and like I said, I kind of feel like the story that was told throughout the night with both Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn outshined the match itself.
Which is fair. I think, Andre, we'll get to you. It was another step. It was a progression into what is, I guess, going to be the culmination, and that culmination might be more Owens versus Sami Zayn. I think that now that your standard WWE fan who doesn't watch NXT or doesn't watch Ring of Honor or New Japan or know these guys from the indies will have more interest. They'll have more of an idea of why these guys
reestablished.
Yeah, so I think that for your John Cena fans, maybe the women and children, or the people who only watch and are big Roman Reigns marks or whatever, just saw that these guys and heard from commentators, these guys have a history and they're battling each other. And I think that people will be more warming up to one or the other as a feud. I think it will maybe make more sense ultimately.
Before I before I give my thoughts on the match, I just want to say I disagree. I don't think that the entire card was rushed other than the Royal Rumble matches. I think certain aspects of it were, but honestly, this is the best Royal Rumble from start to finish that I have seen in a long, long, long time. It's not the best ever, but there have been some great Royal Rumbles the past few years from the start up until the start of the Royal Rumble match and even throughout the Royal Rumble match, but whether it be the finish or certain people involved that they've kind of dropped the ball on.
The winners
especially. This year, I feel like they got the winners right, they got the matches right, and we'll get into both Rumble matches. I think we should spend a lot of time talking about that because those were incredible matches. So top to bottom, I was very pleased with this Royal Rumble. I'm very happy. As far as the AJ and Kevin Owens, Sami Zayn match, handicap match, I've said it. This is the 3rd time I'm going to be saying it, but they did a good job of telling the story that needed to be told. I didn't go into this expecting to get a Cien Almas, Johnny Gargano 5-star classic match because it wasn't set up to be that, with the stipulation, with the handicap match, with the story being told, the behind-the-scenes stuff with Daniel Bryan and Shane. There's a lot going into this slow burn story. And with what they were given to work with, they did, and I can say it now because it was a match that Styles was in, they did a phenomenal job. The commentators did a great job of pointing out that they never tagged. The way that they set up Sami Zayn going into the Rumble later on in the night, everything was perfect about the story that was being told. And yes, the wrestling could have been better, but it's hard. Like I said, it's hard. With what they were given, it's hard to make a 5-star handicap match with so much things to be told. But I really enjoyed the match, and I thought it was a great way to kick it off, and it was a great way to get to do this before the Royal Rumble, which wasn't last. The Men's Royal Rumble was good because you know who the champion is going into the Men's Royal Rumble match, and I think that was well done as well.
The next match would be the Usos winning 2 out of 3 falls. They got both 2 falls in a row before Chad Gable and Shelton Benjamin even got one. This is another reason I thought that it was rushed, that it didn't go to the third fall, but you think this was just to build the Usos more?
I think it was part of the story too, because Chad Gable was talking about how this match isn't even going to go 3 falls. And he was right. It just didn't go in his favor. So I think it's ultimately to set up something between Gable and Shelton Benjamin. I don't see them being a team for the long haul. I did not see SmackDown this week. I'm usually a week behind on SmackDown for whatever reason. So I didn't see what happened, if anything happened between those two on this week's episode. But
yeah, they interrupted Fashion Files basically, and there wasn't. And then I think they had a match against Breezango. Yeah. So, but they were still a united front, I guess, if you will.
They were.
Sure. Okay. Yeah. So I don't know. I think that I kind of enjoyed the not having 3 falls because of Chad Gable saying that before the match. It kind of made it funny, like, oh, he was right. It just didn't work out in his favor. And it's the Usos. They got the tag team division on lock. It's not unbelievable to have them winning 2 falls. And on top of that, whenever there's 2 out of 3 falls, it always goes 3 falls. So it's kind of refreshing to not have it go 3 this time.
Well, this also led into a really awesome promo by the Usos on SmackDown where they go back and forth. They mention all the tag teams. They go lockdown. They threw up the weird jail cell.
That was hokey.
That was
gimmicky.
Yeah.
That was overbooking, whatever you want to call it. They didn't need to do it.
They did not need to do that for the TV aspect. Even the sound, I don't know, it was unnecessary. But the promo still was great, and it didn't necessarily negatively affect them. So I give them credit. They've just gotten so much better. This last year and a half has been the best of the Usos, and we were down and out on the previous form of the gimmick. Man, they have just rose and rose, and they are blooming, I guess, if you will. They're like a blooming onion.
They are delicious.
Yeah.
But no, the Usos, they're just absolutely fantastic. I feel like every time that they have a promo, they outdo themselves. And a lot of people, especially online, I've been reading and seeing that people don't really care for their style of promos, which, yeah, your face,
really?
your
Wow.
face is my thought exactly. I think that they knock it out of the park every time that they have a promo. I love the style of them going back and forth, finishing each other's sentences, bringing up the fact that they're not only brothers but they're twins, so they have that connection that nobody else in the tag team division has, and that's it. I feel like that's a thing. I feel like that truly is a thing because they're so much better. They're so much more on the same page with each other at all times. There's never been a point throughout their entire careers where it looks like, oh well, it looks like Jay's gonna turn on Jimmy or vice versa. That's never been an issue. Like, yes, one of them may have been out with an injury and the other one may have been having singles matches on TV or at live events or whatever or what have you, but they have been a unit the entire time, and they define tag team wrestling. Like, it doesn't get any better to me than the Usos right now.
I love their style of promo, and if people want to say, oh, it's different, I think that's even better. That's another feather in their cap. I feel
the same way, yes.
I think the way the Usos have done promos, and it's so much different than what they were a year and a half ago. I give them so much credit for what they've done, and I thought that was awesome. And yeah, like we said, the jail cell thing was hokey. I don't know why they would throw up a graphic and everything and do the
Hopefully that was a
noise.
1 week deal.
Yeah, I hope that was a 1 week deal. But it was well done. They explained why they're the top guys and why and how they've taken out all these other teams and really put themselves on that pedestal that they totally deserve to be on right now. So,
But
lots of
also,
credit for the Usos.
Just I want to mention that they did mention on that promo. They said like every SmackDown tag team's name, and they also said even if you're brothers, it doesn't matter. We still got this on lock. And after their promo ended, the Bludgeon Brothers walked out for their match, and they kind of had a little bit of a stare down just for a hot second. The Bludgeon Brothers are pretty much the only team that they haven't defeated for the titles. So I feel like it's only a matter of time. The Bludgeon Brothers are still kind of being brought up. They're still kind of facing local indie talent at this point, but I feel like it's only a matter of time until they get a shot at the titles, and maybe they're the ones to dethrone the Usos. But it's it'll who's to say? We'll see soon. I feel like
Authors of Pain are gonna be the one to dethrone the Usos just because of how much Frony loves them.
Oh gosh.
Just kidding. I hope not.
I put in my notes another solid Usos promo, and I think this was foreshadowing the next feud with the Bludgeon Brothers, which if you're going to... It's so weird to think that this decade is almost over, but if we were going to make a top 5 or top 10 list of best tag team rivalries or matches from this decade, and probably even beyond, but let's just focus on this decade from 2010 on, that it would be hard not to put the Wyatt family, when they were a tag team against the last iteration of the Usos. Man, those matches were on fire. Those guys could go back and forth for months and months, and it still didn't get boring. That's one of the best things that WWE had going on during, like, outside of Daniel Bryan's Yes movement. One of the best things on the card during that time was the Usos versus the Wyatts. And now to see, once again, this new iteration of the Usos, this new iteration of the Wyatt family now as the Bludgeon Brothers, I think this could reignite one of the best feuds from 2013 and 2014, and it seemed to me that it was foreshadowing. They end talking about being brothers. Then you have the Bludgeon Brothers, music coming right on, and they're kind of like the Usos were leaving as the Bludgeon Brothers were coming to face the Jobbers, which was a really good move that Rowan... The one guy didn't want to tag in, and so Rowan takes him and slaps him with the other guy to tag him in as like a forcing the tag. Oh man, that was great, and just demolishing these guys. So yeah, and these guys have all sorts of chemistry together, and it's this version of the Usos, we haven't seen them face the monster tag team, and it's really been since the Bludgeon Brothers that we've seen that kind of rivalry with the Usos and anybody like that. So I'd love to see this. I think that's the right direction to go towards the next SmackDown pay-per-view would be the Usos and the Bludgeon Brothers. So I'm all on board with that.
Bludgeon Brothers.
That's right. After that, we had the Royal Rumble match. So let's start off with our winner and work our way back. I want to talk about last week. We all picked and wanted Shinsuke Nakamura to win the match. I asked you guys, if it comes to fruition, will you be bothered that you saw it coming? Now that we're a week later, do you guys change your thoughts? How do you feel?
Nope.
I wasn't bothered at all because the way that they told... Well, there were so many stories that they told in that match, and they told them all so well, and hopefully we can get to talking about all of them. There's several little things that happened that I thoroughly enjoyed, but Shinsuke winning and the way that they did it, the way that they had the Final Four, the way that they had him eliminate the last two... I had said how he wasn't built up that properly, in my opinion, before this match. This match went a long, long way to establishing him to where he should have been established coming into the match. But no worries, because he's at where he needs to be. Him eliminating both Cena and Roman Reigns and leaving him and Reigns as the last two really was great, because even though I thought it was going to be Nakamura, there was part of me that said, well, maybe it'll be Roman, because it is Roman Reigns, you know. And after the high spear, I was super worried. But props to WWE for booking the entire match great, but the finish especially was exactly what it needed to be. And Shinsuke winning, even though we saw it coming, was not. Wrestling can be predictable, and sometimes it's good to be predictable when they're doing things the right way. There's nothing wrong with it being predictable. The only complaint I had was Chandler here winning the the pot. Not only that, in the drawing, he got both Shinsuke and Roman Reigns, which was completely unfair because we knew it was going to be one of those.
I did get them both. I did get them both.
great.
So once they were the last two in the ring, I just grabbed the money on the table and I was like, yeah, I won.
That's pretty great. There's a couple times when it got to the final 6 or 7 and then the final 4 where it was kind of new guard versus old guard, or
Yes.
WWE versus the indie darlings, or whatever you want to say of the last 4 or 5 years.
The final 6. It was on one side you had Randy Orton, John Cena, and
Roman Reigns.
No. Randy Orton, John Cena, and Rey Mysterio.
Oh, yes.
That's who was on one side. And then on the other side, on the opposite side, you had Roman Reigns, Finn Balor, and Shinsuke Nakamura. And at that point in time, I was losing it. Like I watched with Andre and a good friend and contributor to the show, Mike Onsrud. I watched with them too. And the three of us, when that moment happened, I feel like that was the biggest. Besides Mysterio coming out, because
the room pop, it had the biggest room pop?
that was a big room pop right there.
There were 4 of us there too.
Yeah, Kyle was there as well, another contributor to the show. But it was fantastic. That moment was awesome. As Andre said, the fact that you had Shinsuke and Roman Reigns being the final 2, pretty much the top of both of their shows, their respective shows, Raw and SmackDown. It was fantastic. Shinsuke got the win. I think that with the surprise entrance in this match, with this match being as good as it was hands down, in my opinion, at least the past 5 to 7 years, the best Royal Rumble that I've watched.
Easily.
And with all of that being said, my favorite thing about this match was the fact that Shinsuke, not just that he won, but that it finally established him as, hey, WWE fans, this guy, this Shinsuke Nakamura guy, he's top talent, and he should be looked at and thought of as such. And it finally put him in that spot, that believable spot that he can main event WrestleMania. And without getting this win, I don't know how else they could have put him in that spot this year, which obviously he should be in. But if he didn't win the Royal Rumble, which he did, thankfully, I don't know how you would have put him in the main event of WrestleMania, just from a booking standpoint, not from a talent standpoint, not from a charisma standpoint, none of that. But from a booking standpoint, I don't know how else you could have put him in the main event.
You couldn't have, because they didn't do a good job. As I said, they didn't do a good job of building him up. So yeah, winning the Rumble was great. And I love that he challenged AJ right after the Rumble match, so we didn't have
immediately after,
like we do. Because did Asuka really announce who she's facing?
She still hasn't. She said on Raw, she said that at Mania she will become the champion.
Yeah.
She didn't say what champion. So Asuka still, we'll get to the Women's Rumble,
and
but
I like that too.
Yeah,
I like both. I like that Shinsuke is gonna face AJ, because that's the match that we all want to see, and the rematch of the Wrestle Kingdom 9, I think, was it?
10.
10. Sorry, 10. It's gonna. Yeah, Mania's shaping up to be a good card, even though we're gonna get the passing of the torch to Roman Reigns. But other than that, I think things are gonna be great. We mentioned Rey Mysterio. Can I just say that pop, not just in the room, but in the stadium? I'm so happy for him.
that West Coast pop.
He deserved that for the awful, horrible position that WWE put him in 2015, making him number 30 when everybody wanted Daniel Bryan. He didn't
Also
deserve
in Philadelphia.
Also in Philadelphia. He didn't deserve that. So to hear him get that pop, and not only that, he looked incredible. He's in great shape. He was moving around the ring. He was hitting West Coast pops and 619s on everybody. It was awesome. I was so glad to see that. There was only a few surprise entrances, but I don't care. I think they were all great. Everyone, oh man, I'm so happy for Rey Mysterio. I don't want to get ahead of myself, because there's a few moments that happened, especially with New Day and Jinder, which I hope that we can get into at some point. But that whole series was great. But having Rey get the pop that he deserved, that he should have gotten 3 years ago, was great. Touche to WWE for that.
Other surprise entrance would be Adam Cole and Cien Almas, just less than 24 hours after a 5-star match. Maybe the best match that we've seen in 2018 so far, even better than anything we got or it's at least right up there, if not better than anything we got at Wrestle Kingdom 12. So you had Cole, Almas, you mentioned Rey Mysterio. Ziggler was a surprise. We thought that he might be in there somewhere. Like you said, we thought he might be on the pre-show answering the call. And then Hurricane Helms coming back. How about
Stand
that?
back. There's a hurricane coming through.
That's right. Were you guys disappointed by only 5 surprise entrants, even though during last week's show we accounted for 18 superstars, which means there was 12 open spots?
Not a disappointment at all, because everything they did during the match was great. There was enough to pop me between the New Day stuff, and the very short alliance between Woken Matt and Bray Wyatt that ended them with those two eliminating each other. Almas going a super long time in the match. Adam Cole, all those guys, they did enough during the match. And I popped for Hurricane, too. And I popped for his attempted choke slam on John Cena that went awry. Only 5 surprise entrants, but it didn't bother me because they did enough during the show and enough surprise entrances during the women's match, that the women's rumble, that it didn't bother me at all. There was nothing that happened on Sunday night that could take away from my enjoyment of this show, and I'm very happy that we got a Royal Rumble that I actually enjoyed.
I think, okay, comparing this Royal Rumble to the last 5, maybe even longer, yes, it was freaking awesome. I still am not as over the moon about it as you guys are, even though a lot of the things I wanted to see happen, people I wanted to see came back and did great things. I'm not as like pumped up as you guys are, but when it got to the last 4, it was really special, and I was on the edge of my seat because how much I didn't want to see Roman Reigns win. I would have been okay with Cena, I guess, just because it wouldn't have been Roman Reigns, but really to have Finn and then maybe get that Finn-Lesnar match, but ultimately I really wanted to see Shinsuke get the victory, and I was texting with a friend of the show, Seth Brody, he asked me who I thought was going to win, and I said for women's, I think it'll be Asuka. For men's, I think it'll be Shinsuke, but I just don't see WWE doing 2 Japanese superstars winning both Rumbles in one night, and that is actually exactly what happened. And then Monday Night Raw starts with an Asuka promo, kind of surprising, not great at English, but worked her way through it. Same thing, SmackDown opens with Shinsuke promo. Loved the Shinsuke promo. He did a great job in another backstage segment with AJ Styles, but I love he listed off Sami Zayn, knee to face. All these other people, knee, face, and oh man, it was great. And then telling AJ Styles that he's messing with them, and then back to the first promo where Styles and Zayn and Owens were in the ring with Shinsuke. He said, "You guys losers. AJ Styles is a winner." Yep. I don't know. There were some fun moments, and he's certainly gotten better on the mic.
So was there anything in particular that you didn't like that made you not over the moon about it?
I don't know. Maybe I was just expecting more because of where we're at and the awesome wrestlers that we have. But you have to expect the Royal Rumble is not about great wrestling. It's about great moments. So maybe I was expecting a few more great comebacks and stuff like that. But really, that last 10 minutes was awesome. And having Balor be the Iron Man, I guess, 57, 58 minutes. Shinsuke, 44, 45 minutes, the 2 highest. That says a lot. And I almost wonder, once again, if McMahon's focusing his attention more on the XFL, because I just didn't see that happening, or that they're going to put all these eggs in those 2 guys' baskets.
I kind of feel the opposite of that. I feel like this was finally this current era of superstars. This was the Rumble living up to the potential of those superstars. And I feel like what you just said, the whole thing with Vince McMahon having his focus kind of diverted, maybe that's why this Rumble was so good, and maybe that's why someone like Shinsuke Nakamura got the win. But I absolutely 100% feel like this was finally this current generation, this current era of wrestlers, with everyone that they have, with all of the moments that they had, the New Day moment, the Woken Matt and Bray Wyatt moment, the final 6 standing off, the final 4, the final 2, all of those things, it was finally this roster living up to the potential of what the Rumble should have been for the past at least 3, 4 years.
Rumbles have never been Matt Classic kind of matches. They're not designed that way. I love the Rumble, so I've gone back and watched a lot of my favorites. And they've always had like little stories and little things happening, and sometimes it's clunky and sometimes it doesn't work. But I feel like this year was one of the few years. I think 2001 is a great year. 2007, 92. There's a few I can list off if I were to go and actually look. But from start to finish, they had enough little entertaining segments and spots that didn't overshadow anything even the little things like Heath Slater getting knocked out in the beginning and trying to get in and getting knocked down so many times
by everyone
by
coming
everyone
to the ring.
coming in, and then he finally gets in and he eliminates someone, being Sheamus. Great. And then you have the little feud with the New Day and Jinder, where Jinder eliminates two. And I remember, Chandler, you were getting upset.
I was
like,
not
this
happy.
is perfect. As long as he doesn't eliminate them all, this is perfect. And then to have him almost eliminate Kofi, and then Kofi save himself again and use the pancakes, and that that catapult that they did, jumping over Jinder's head and then them eliminating Jinder, perfect. And yet the Bray Wyatt Matt Hardy thing, I thought they were going to be an alliance for a little bit longer, and I thought it was really cool that they were
I did
alliance
enjoy that. That's
for
pretty cool.
a half a second, and then they were like, "Wait a minute, we're mortal enemies. We got to do this." And then they eliminated each other. There was just two. Plus, they got the winner right. I'm trying to think of a negative complaint for this Rumble match.
I don't have
and
one.
I don't have one either. I guess my only minor complaint was Ziggler being 30 was kind of like, But again, we haven't seen him in a long time, so I don't mind him being 30. He didn't win it. I mean, I don't know where they're going with him personally, but other than that, yeah, I mean, that's not even a complaint. It was a great match. It was one of my favorite Rumble matches.
I think that okay. Sitting there watching, I was entertained. It was fun. I wasn't, once it got to the last, like I said, 5 to 8 minutes or so, that was really great because I just wanted one of my guys that I love, like a Balor Nakamura, to win so much versus a Rollins or a Cena and Reigns. And that there was a lot of cool, fun spots. And here's what I think, that while I wasn't over the moon about it like you guys were and are right now, I think this Rumble ages really well over time.
It's going to.
And sometimes that happens. You watch a pay-per-view, and whereas sometimes just over time it gets better, I think that this will be one of those scenarios. Okay, do you guys have a problem with Titan time? You know what Titan time is? This is, okay, how one entrant might come in 90 seconds, another one might come in 2.5 minutes later or whatever.
No, I don't.
Does that bother you guys, or is it more just like, you know what, do it when the crowd is ready and the right time to put them in, or right at the perfect moment? So do you care that it was not everyone came in right at 2 minutes?
That doesn't bother me.
I don't care either. It's fine. It's wrestling.
Yep.
Doesn't bother me at all. And according to Bruce Pritchard, whenever the few times that they did actually try and do it on time, every time, it just didn't work with the flow of the match. So I think it's better that they feel it out and they do it
Off
when
of
it's
the crowd,
right time.
yes.
Yep.
Do it based on your in-house crowd right there. So I have no issues with that. Back to Almas, he actually edged out Cena as the 4th longest competitor. So it was Finn had 57 minutes, Shinsuke 44, Rusev was number 1 who had 31 minutes, and then you had Almas just edging out John Cena. So they're really showcasing this NXT talent and how they feel about these guys. So if you look at some of all those 3 of the top 4 and actually throw in Rusev in there, these are all 4 NXT guys, and even more if you want to look down of all the 30 who are there.
Can I just issue an apology to Rusev right now? That he competed at the Rumble on Rusev Day. He was the first entrant.
Yep.
Got the great announcement, and we didn't even talk about that. I'm sorry, Rusev. I'm sorry that you lost the Rumble and that you lost the Kentucky Colonel Rumble as well, and lost both of them on Rusev Day, which might be a spoiler or teaser for Tweet of the Week. But that was a great spot too. Rusev, everything he did in that match. Rusev is another guy who's. I'm glad that he's going to get a shot at a title coming up very, very, very soon here because he deserves it.
Yeah, my favorite Rusev moment of the week might have been the promo after he won the Fatal 4-Way to become the number 1 contender for the United States Championship, and he refers to Bobby Roode as Bob Roode.
Yes. Rusev was just fantastic.
Yes. Okay, well, let's move on for now to get more of this stuff in. We want to maybe skip over some of these matches a little bit before we get to the Women's Royal Rumble. Cesaro and Sheamus regained the Raw Tag Team titles, like you said, 4th or 5th time that they've won, beating Seth Rollins and Jason Jordan. Brock Lesnar gets the pinfall over Kane in a triple threat match. This is exactly what we thought would happen because you didn't want to see Strowman get the pin and look bad, or Lesnar, whatever. It made the most sense, but the thing is, we saw that coming, that the reason that Kane was in the match is so he could be the loser and then disappear.
Still a really good match, though.
And even after the match, Braun Strowman standing in the ring yelling to Brock Lesnar at the top of the ramp, "You didn't pin me!" It worked out perfectly. I also just want to mention quickly on the Raw Tag Team title match, the finish of that match was so weird.
The reason behind that is because, according to
Jordan.
the sheets, Jordan, like
Is he
they're
actually injured?
considered.
He
yeah.
really is, yeah.
Oh.
He's not. He's having strength issues in his.
I didn't know
he's
that. Okay.
in jeopardy of not being able to face Rollins at WrestleMania. They're worried. I mean, I don't know if it's neck thing hereditary from his dad or something, but
Oh my God.
that was a joke. But he is.
No, it
legit,
wasn't.
But he is legit. They're legit worried about his neck and back because he's having some strength hand issues.
That
Which
I
really
did not
scary to
know,
me
yeah.
because he's an incredible athlete and he's just finding himself in his heel character. So that's part of the reason why he didn't do much in the match and why he sold the head injury is because they didn't want to have.
Knowing
him
that,
take
it makes a
any-
lot more
any
sense
bumps.
what they did. I did not know that while I was watching it. I was so just put off and confused and like, why did they do that while I was watching it? But knowing that makes sense. And as you said, I hope nothing but the best for him.
Well, let's get to this women's Royal Rumble match. This was our main event.
Rightfully so.
I'm gonna disagree with that, but we'll get to that a little bit later.
I'm not surprised.
I know.
I'm gonna disagree with you disagreeing.
Me or him or
You.
I'm just kidding.
Frony.
No, that's fair. Okay, so Asuka's your winner. Do you guys have your dream opponent for Asuka at WrestleMania? So there's
Charlotte.
There's going to be, especially since the Raw will have their first ever women's elimination chamber, which was announced on Raw. It's going to take place on February 25th at, of course, Elimination Chamber. That's, I think, going to be part of the decider for who Asuka faces. But like you said, Asuka could decide to jump ship and choose Charlotte, which that's your choice, which I think is, no one's going to disagree with that. That might be the best possible matchup outside of Ronda Rousey with either of those two that you could possibly have in either combination of whatever of the women's division. I think Sasha Banks also I really love right up there too, especially this last week that she's had where she's finally showing off that kind of heel attitude that made Sasha Banks what she was, the boss in NXT. We haven't really seen that in her 2 years on the main roster. She's really played the babyface role. I love her promos though this last week. I think she's really shown off all of the things that I loved about her that made her my favorite wrestler in the company, male or female, a few years ago. I've really fallen off with her because I don't like the way I need her to be a heel, and just because I think she's a natural heel, and that just makes so much more sense for her. So I really like the attitude change for Sasha Banks and the way she's kind of done things lately. And she was your Iron Woman, I guess, on the women's end. I know she spent a lot of time outside of the ring during different times of the match, but really love what they've done with Sasha Banks. Let's talk about some of these returns, though. Okay, we got returns from Lita, Tori Wilson, Molly Holly, Jacqueline, Michelle McCool, Kelly, Beth Phoenix, Nikki, and Brie Bella, and of course the first woman I ever to Vicky Guerrero. Just kidding, it was Trish Stratus.
I'm not surprised that you don't think the women's Rumble match is the main event. I just want to throw that out there.
Oh, jeez. Do you guys have a best and a worst in terms of returns?
Trish was the best. She looked great. So did Beth Phoenix. Both of those women look like they can return tomorrow, and they haven't missed a beat. Lita, I love Lita. She was great. I love that she had the times up hashtag. I don't know if Roni does or not, but I think that was great.
God. Oh my god.
She actually kept it covered because she didn't have permission to wear it, and at gorilla position, she took off the shirt covering it and went to the ring.
Wow.
That is badass of her. I don't know if we're allowed to say that word on the radio, but she is. And yeah, she's past her prime. She's had some serious neck injuries and knee injuries, so seeing that she had lost a step doesn't bother me too much, but she's the one that had looked like she lost the most, other than Jacqueline, but Jacqueline is a lot older than the rest of the women. But all the everyone else returning looked great. Kelly, whatever.
Okay, so if Trish Stratus is your best, then Kelly is your worst.
Yeah, I think so.
I think Beth Phoenix would probably be my best. As Andre said, she looks like she can step in the ring.
She's up there
She looks
too.
like she can step in the ring right now and win the women's championship on either show. And yeah, Kelly was absolutely. I mean, she was never really anything to write home about to begin with in the ring. So
she was at the dark ages of women's wrestling, divas wrestling.
Yes, exactly. She kind of epitomizes what a WWE diva was to me. She's right up there for that. So having her come back, it's cool, and it was cool to get the pop, but I just didn't care for it much. Whereas you had Trish Stratus, Lita, and Beth Phoenix, in my opinion, all looked fantastic, and they all look like they could go right now.
And of course, as was briefly mentioned, but I also mentioned earlier too, Vicky Guerrero, probably not someone that you'd expect to be in that match, but she had her spot, and they played it well, and she got a bunch of "excuse me," and she had the cougar necklace, which is awesome. Way to go.
Vicky Guerrero being in the Women's Rumble was one of those classic Rumble spots, and it made the match so much more fun. And that's what the Royal Rumble is about, is having those kinds of spots. The people that you don't necessarily you know she's not gonna win the match, but she's still in the match, and she had her moment. She got her mic time. She got the funny elimination of everyone throwing her out and everything. So it was a lot of fun seeing her in the match. I didn't care for her because I don't care for her as a character. I know Andre has been raving about her, but like as I know I'm not supposed to like her, but I legitimately don't. I'm kind of the opposite of Andre, where like, yes, I do know I'm not supposed to like her, but I don't at all. But it was fun seeing her in the Rumble, and it was fun to see her come back and have that moment.
After Sasha Banks, Becky Lynch would have entered at number 2 and was in there for over 30 minutes. I think she was second place to Sasha. They did a good job building Sasha. 25 minutes longer than the next highest person. That was great. Were you guys okay with Michelle McCool gaining the most eliminations? She had 4, and the next highest would have been 2 or 3. So are you guys okay with Michelle McCool coming back and getting the most amount of eliminations, or is that kind of who cares? Would you rather be like Asuka or Nia Jax? To me, it should be Nia Jax.
It should have been Nia.
I think Nia, because then you're building her as kind of the monster in the division, and certainly in terms of size, that's an understandable role for her. So I would have liked to see her get the most amount of eliminations as opposed to someone who is likely there for one night only.
Yeah, if for no other reason, I would have rather seen one of the women that are on the roster get the most amount of eliminations just because they're there. But yeah,
maybe it wasn't planned. I don't know.
Yeah, who knows? But I don't know that Michelle McCool should have been the one to have the most, especially because it was the first ever women's Royal Rumble. I almost said Elimination Chamber. It was the first one ever, so technically she has the most Royal Rumble eliminations ever at this point in time. Yeah.
Legendary Hall of Fame, dude.
Yeah.
2018.
Yeah.
It bothers me, but not enough to take away from the match, and not as much as it bothered me the way that Ronda Rousey debuted. But we'll get to that
I'll agree.
That's
with
probably
that
the only
well.
thing that I didn't like about the Royal Rumble, but we'll get to that at that point. It bothers me a little bit that Michelle McCool got 4 eliminations, but not too much, because this is the first of, I'm assuming, a yearly thing. She's not going to be in every year, so I have a feeling that Nia or Asuka or someone else is going to eventually have more overall eliminations than her. And yeah, it should have been Jax. It wasn't, but she'll be in it next year, and I'm hoping that she gets a bunch of eliminations. So I mean, it wasn't too big of a deal. No, the one thing that did bother me slightly more than that, and that was the way that they had the last 3 being 2 of the Bella Twins instead of having it be Asuka and Sasha. But as much as I don't like Nikki, and I'm not the biggest Brie fan either, they do kind of deserve it for the role that they played, and so because of that, it's not that big a deal to me either. But I wasn't a huge fan of them being 2 of the last 3. But we knew Asuka was going to win from the get-go, so it didn't affect it too much.
If I hadn't mentioned Michelle McCool had the most eliminations, would you guys have even noticed, or would you have even guessed her?
Nope.
So, and that's another thing too. It wasn't very obvious. Going forward, though, I'd like to see Nia Jax kind of be the Kane of the women's division, I guess, in terms of Royal Rumble, like having the most amount of eliminations over time and really setting that record, and very hard for someone to come close to. I know that they would like Roman Reigns to eventually get close and maybe
he will.
Maybe jump the gap there on Kane for the most eliminations. But had I not looked it up, I wouldn't have guessed Michelle McCool either. And looking through it was a bit of a surprise, so I'll give him that. But last note on Michelle McCool, what did you guys think about the Philly crowd chanting Undertaker while she was in the match? I know this has been something that happens quite often, where if Brie or if Nikki Bella's in the match, they're gonna chant John Cena sucks. Or when AJ Lee was out there a few years ago, after the CM Punk chants would start. You guys have a take on this? Is it disrespectful?
Yeah, I mean, not fully. I mean, I don't know how to feel about it. It's annoying. I don't know if it's disrespectful. To me, it's annoying. If you're gonna chant her name, that's how I feel. She's the one that's in the ring. She's the one that's competing at that time. Show her support. I don't know if it's necessarily disrespectful, because I mean, it is that person's spouse, but yeah, it's I just feel like they should chant for who's in the ring at that time.
It's annoying and it is disrespectful. I don't think that they're trying to be disrespectful, but I think it is because you don't see that on the other side. You don't see them when CM Punk was in the ring. They never chanted AJ Lee. You know, it's just to me, it's a little.
Well, you did see
disrespectful.
You did see it with Tyson Kidd. He gets Natty's husband chance. So
I love that though. I love that.
He's the only one. Though.
No, but that's I'm glad you bring that up. But I do actually enjoy it when it goes the opposite way.
And that's used as a diss, so that kind of I don't know.
And okay, yeah, and that's a diss. You're right.
I don't like
yeah.
that. I didn't like it. I don't think the fans chanting it were purposely trying to disrespect Michelle McCool. I think it was more of, oh snap, that's Undertaker's wife. Undertaker's a legend. But they do it with AJ Lee. You know, I'm not a big fan of it. It's annoying. It's disrespectful whether they want it to be or not. Fortunately, didn't last too long.
A couple other notes. Ember Moon and Kairi Sane from NXT get their first taste of the main roster on a Big 4 pay-per-view. I thought that was pretty neat. Ember Moon, once again, selling the injury on the arm from the armbar from the previous night. And Kairi Sane getting there. They must be pretty high on her. I guess I would have expected to see her just because there was, like we said, those 12 open spots, and I am surprised at how many legends, air quotes, that came back. But to still have Kairi Sane in there mixed in, I thought that was really well done. And I know she didn't last very long, but it was good to see her. And I think that's the right thing to do is you give some of these wrestlers a cup of coffee. Yeah. Neither of them had too big of, I guess, spots or anything, but with 30 women, it's not the easiest thing to do.
And how about the heart of Ember Moon after getting her elbow stomped and only the use of one arm that she agreed to try and become the first woman to have the NXT Championship and main event WrestleMania? Props to her. That was her kayfabe courage was incredible. I don't know if Kairi Sane kayfabe knew she was in the Rumble, but she did a great job from that standpoint as well. Just kidding.
Oh, that's great. Is there, of the people who came back, of the returns, who would you want to see join one of the women's division on Raw or SmackDown next week and be a more permanent fixture on Raw or SmackDown?
Are we saying of the legend returns or out of Kairi Sane and Ember Moon?
Of legend returns, yeah. We'll just suppose that we're gonna get Ember Moon and Kairi at some point.
Okay.
But right now, of those legends, who do you want to see on Raw or SmackDown this week? Well, I love Trish Stratus. She is like, in terms of my all-time love of ladies, that it's like her and J-Lo have switched off between 1 and 2 basically throughout my life.
Wow.
Tori Wilson's a fox, but Trish Stratus, it to me is just something else, man. Oh, I just absolutely love her.
And I feel that way about Lita, but all that being said, I want to see Beth Phoenix on the main roster.
And I'm totally in agreement with you. It's got to be Beth Phoenix, and to see a match with her and Nia Jax, I think
they had a moment.
And they had a moment, and it was
Yep.
it wasn't as blown up as AJ Styles and Nakamura back in June of Money in the Bank of 2017. But there was something there, man. I hope they can get that going at some point. But Beth Phoenix
tweeted that out too. She tweeted that picture out about how great of a moment that was. And
Beth Phoenix, once again, we talk about the dark ages of divas and women's wrestling. She was the lone bright spot of that whole era. And she could go, man. She's one of 3 women ever to be in the men's Royal Rumble. So this wasn't even her first Royal Rumble. I mean, that's insane to me. And Beth Phoenix, the glamazon, everything with her character I thought was so great, but she could go in the ring, and she's a lot better wrestler in that era than a lot of the guys were too. Not just being the best women's wrestler of that era. And I remember that injury she had when she was on top of the world, and she started crying in the ring, but still had to like fight through and get through the match. I felt so bad for her, and I know
I'm getting goosebumps just hearing you talk about it.
Exactly.
Seriously.
And I know her and Edge have had a kid. Hopefully that I imagine would be supportive of her going back now that he is unable to finish his career as a professional in-ring wrestler. I really would love to see Beth Phoenix. I hope this is something we get, even if it's on a part-time basis like a Lesnar or John Cena. I would love to see Beth Phoenix at the occasional Big 4 pay-per-view and get involved. The Nia Jax thing, they showed it. It was a moment. I think they got to strike while the iron's hot.
Yeah, even if it's just something where they do from now till WrestleMania and then she's done or she's stops for a round, decides what she wants to do. There's something there, and they should come to it and hopefully set up something for Mania. But how many women's matches are they going to have at WrestleMania? Then again, it's going to be like 12 hours long, so they'll have space for it.
There's time.
Okay, so Asuka was your winner. Now, we had Ronda Rousey come out afterwards, pointing to the sign. You said you had
18 times.
You said you had problems with this. So this is okay. This goes back to my point, though, of why I didn't want this to be in the main event. If you're going to bring Ronda Rousey back after the Royal Rumble, basically overshining the spotlight of Asuka, who the focus should have been on, then put the men's Royal Rumble match last and have it end with Shinsuke calling out AJ to give us that, once again, that moment from Money in the Bank and the Dream Match, Wrestle Kingdom 10, given to us again this year at WrestleMania. That is one of the main reasons I didn't want the women's to go on last, especially looking back and how they had Ronda Rousey overshadow. If they had switched those two, would you guys have had as much of a problem with it?
I would have. Just if the timing of her coming out after the women's match, especially with it being the first one, it doesn't matter if it was ending the show or if it was the second to last match, if it was the opening match, she's overshadowing the entire 30-woman Royal Rumble, first ever 30-woman Royal Rumble match. So I just having her come out the way that they had her come out, it doesn't matter to me where it was on the card. I wouldn't have been okay with it, and I'm not still okay with how they played that out. And then the next night on Raw, Stephanie McMahon comes out and is like, so we had our moment with Ronda Rousey, but now here's the winner's chance to have her piece. And it's just like, why?
It totally was trying to cover it up,
yeah,
right? It was
why
trying
wouldn't
to
you
make
have
up
given
for
her?
it.
Why wouldn't you have given her time after the match, after the historic match, and not the next night? I don't know.
It wouldn't have. It would. I still wouldn't have liked it if it was switched. I think it would have made it worse because I think the women deserve to go on last. However, having said that, we didn't like Ronda Rousey's debut. We are subscribers to the network. We're gonna watch WrestleMania. Of all the things that they've done in the past few years to ruin Royal Rumbles, this moment isn't going to ruin this Rumble for me, because I understand that with that Ronda Rousey segment, that was not for us. That was not for the hardcore wrestling fans. That was for the casual fans that they want to reel back in on their road to WrestleMania. That's all the thousands and millions of new subscribers they want to have and new eyes they want to have on their product at WrestleMania. If that's the only thing that we had to endure for that, as opposed to Roman winning, The Rock coming out, and everything that they've done the past several years to ruin to ruin Royal Rumbles, I am okay with it. I still didn't like it. It did steal a little of Asuka's shine, but then again, Asuka still hasn't announced her competitor. I think it could have been booked better. I'm not. Ronda Rousey is a huge mainstream name. I'm not sold on her as a character. I've not seen her in the ring. Allegedly, she's been training for months. She could be great in the ring, but her abilities to convey emotion and to, in that little stint that we had, was just didn't do it for me. The way she pointed to the sign one time, why does she got to point to it several times?
Are we done with that? I'm
and
so
point
over
to it
that.
again. I mean, one time, have her do it when she comes in and then leave it at that. I don't know. It was just really weird, and it felt out of place, and it felt like it was done because it was a name.
It felt forced. It
felt forced,
It wasn't
yep.
natural. It didn't just naturally happen, and I feel like that's the worst feeling of it. It was so forced.
Yeah, and it's a little disappointing and it sucked, but at the same time, I'm not gonna let that take away from my enjoyment of the Rumble match itself, because that wasn't part of the match, in my opinion. I'm gonna pull a Meltzer and say that the match was from bell to bell, first appearance to last elimination, and it was. I don't need to see it again. It was very cringeworthy. Hopefully she can find her character before now in WrestleMania, and hopefully she's not wrestling in a singles match. I hope that they do the rumored mixed tag match with her and Stephanie and someone else. So I wasn't keen on the Rousey thing. No.
I think it's a great get for WWE. And if you look at last week, if you include the XFL or the last 2 weeks with the XFL and then signing Ronda Rousey to what has been reported as a full-time WWE contract, not a part-time Lesnar situation, there's been a lot of talk. And as you said, it is about this is the road to WrestleMania. It's about bringing in more eyes to the product, getting people to come back to wrestling or MMA fans, bringing them into the fold. And they've done a great job of that, man. The WWE and Vince McMahon has been the talk of SportsCenter, sports talk radio,
Every
mainstream
show on
radio,
ESPN.
not even just sports. It goes so much bigger than that. It's a news story, TMZ and beyond. These are all things that Vince McMahon has done a good job of of being the focal point, really, of 2018 so far even in sports and in news in general outside of our leader of the free world, I guess.
Which is why, as much as we as the hardcore wrestling fans didn't like the Rousey debut, it worked for what they wanted because everybody mainstream is talking about them, and they know they're not going to lose our business by bringing her on.
So you guys were okay, and I don't know.
Not okay.
No,
with
Not
no,
okay.
I'm talking
No.
okay, but at the same time, you guys
Understand
yes,
what they did.
I just don't.
Not okay with
I
it, but
also
understand.
I don't
I don't like it either.
I don't like ending the pay-per-view that way. I just think had they done that and then all of a sudden that you bring on the Lesnar match or something after the Women's Royal Rumble, if that had ended at 7:30 or 8, it doesn't look quite as bad as ending with the gimmicky pointing to the WrestleMania sign, which I hate in general. I think we've seen this so many times since they started doing that in the early 2000s. I'm so done with pointing to the sign. I think it's silly. But does this really say it's not quite as bad as the women's Money in the Bank situation where Ellsworth was your first ever women's Money in the Bank winner? It's not quite as bad. But to me, it says they didn't quite learn their lesson from that. It seems to me that they clearly should have.
I disagree. I think they knew exactly what they were doing, and they did what they did for the audience that I recommend that I talked about, and I think that's just something as fans that we're going to have to deal with, because what they do for the mainstream draw is going to be there's going to be stuff that we don't like, and fortunately this is just a minor thing, and I think the women's Rumble was too big of a deal for it to still not be the main event. And I don't think that it's the same as Ellsworth, because Ellsworth was a man winning a women's
right.
match.
No, it's not on the same level. You're absolutely right.
Rousey is a debuting woman who's going to be in the women's division, so it's not the same thing. But it's still, for us, it still was. Yeah.
It just sucks that it takes away from the
moment.
fact that it takes away from the winner. It takes away from all 29 other competitors. It deflates the situation, and it's annoying that they go that route. Like, yes, I understand why they did it, to bring in more eyes because they're on the road to WrestleMania, but if you want something to be as historic and as important as you're building it up to be, don't do this at the end of it.
Have her debut on Raw or SmackDown.
Especially being in the same city for 4 days. That's what I don't get. To me, it's okay. I know it's okay to end a Raw with someone coming back and doing that. If you're ending one of the big 4 pay-per-views that way, and I know it is the beginning of the road to WrestleMania, I don't like ending a pay-per-view, which is once again why I didn't want that going on last. But I do see what you guys were saying. It is a absolutely momentous occasion, something that's never happened before, and is a very special moment. It wasn't imperative for me for the women to go on last because they have with Hell in a Cell. I hope that they will with with the Elimination Chamber, though, in a few weeks. I do hope that the women go on last there. But it's just another reason why I wish we would have flip-flopped the men's and women's. I'm not throwing shade at the women. I'm just saying if you're going to end it with a huge mainstream return, I'd rather that happen on Raw or earlier in a pay-per-view than ending one of your big 4s, which is sort of the Internet Smarks WrestleMania, right? I mean, WrestleMania has been, like you said, it's geared towards the mainstream fan who doesn't necessarily watch other things outside of WWE. Royal Rumble is supposed to be our pay-per-view. It's supposed to be my pay-per-view. It's supposed to be the Schmozcast's WrestleMania, and that's why I'm frustrated with the ending a little bit.
I would say that our WrestleMania is Wrestle Kingdom, but I digress.
That's fair. No, I agree with you that until yes, yeah, you're right about that.
And here's the thing with Rousey. Hindsight bias is always something that you got to consider here. What if she's been training her tail off and she's going to be incredible in the ring? What if 5-10 years from now,
I don't doubt that she'll be
she's
incredible.
a legend. She's a Hall of Famer. She's one of the greatest women to ever step foot in a wrestling ring. When we look back at that, are we going to look at that differently? Because there are certain people. For example, The Rock. You could argue that his debut wasn't the greatest because he was getting booed and the Rocky sucks chants. But we look back at that now, and I mean it's different, but it's completely different because Rousey was known and Rocky Maivia wasn't. But if she becomes a superstar and a Hall of Famer, I think we look back at this debut differently. But as of right now, yeah,
I don't know if I'll look at it differently because I might appreciate her debut a bit more, but I still, in the back of my mind, I will always think that she took away from the first ever Women's Royal Rumble match. That's how I'm gonna see her debut, and it sucks for her because that kind of taints her debut, and it sucks for all the other women because she took away from their moment. So that's like I said, I might be able to appreciate it more if down the road she turns out to be a fantastic wrestler who works her tail off and earns everything that she gets. But at the same time, I'm still gonna think, that moment you kind of took away from others.
Here's another Rousey question: if she's not full time, if she only wrestles a handful of times a year, does that make her not a professional wrestler then?
Oh my God. We're going to get into that next week. That is a tease. Andre, as well as Chandler and myself and other contributors to the show, have had an argument about whether or not Shane McMahon is considered a professional wrestler. We're going to have that next week, and that's going to be on our Twitter and Facebook polls. So pay attention to our social media pages, which are...
Yep. Like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter and Instagram, subscribe to us on YouTube, find us at the Schmozcast.
Okay, so we talked about the possibility of... I think Rousey is going to be awesome. I think that we will look better on this. I think that she is so dedicated to being one of the best wrestlers, and there's so many sweet matchups that we can have with this. I'm all on board with Rousey. I actually love this. I just didn't like the spot.
Exactly.
However, if she ends up being Dan the Beast Severn, then what?
Ooh.
As opposed, okay, if she can go one of three paths, what would you choose? Or what do you think she's going to be? I don't think that she'll be Dan the Beast Severn. She didn't show great charisma. However, the other two options I'll say it will give you Ken Shamrock or Brock Lesnar.
Brock Lesnar was never a great promo guy.
No, that's fair. And you know what? He went into MMA from wrestling. But if you're gonna say some of the guys that have done the MMA thing and then come to wrestling,
I think she's. I want to see her do the Brock Lesnar route where she becomes, because I was a fan of her in MMA and I'm still a fan of her. I didn't like her debut, but that's not to take away from her. I think she's going to do great.
And we haven't seen her in the ring yet, so we can't say.
And if she has been training for months, knowing her personality, knowing the way she is, at least what we've seen, nobody knows her, or the three of us, we don't know her personally. But I would think that she's putting all into it. And she even said that this is not just a hobby. This is not just something that she's doing, that this is, from now until the foreseeable future, this is the top priority in her life. And hearing her say that makes me think that she's going to be just fine.
Would you go ahead?
Yeah, no, I just agree with what he was saying. I absolutely think that all the stuff that I said about her debut, that aside, I'm absolutely a fan of hers, and I expect for her to do very well. And her work ethic and her dedication that she's going to be putting into this, I think that she's got bright things on her horizon for sure.
Absolutely. No, I would err on the side that she's going to be really good at this. She's going to be someone who is very memorable. She's going to be great. The charisma promo thing might be something, but like you said, Lesnar was never great, and I wouldn't even be surprised if they gave her Paul Heyman too.
Oh my gosh,
how great would that be? And it would make a lot of sense too.
She did an interview right after the Royal Rumble, and I don't know. I thought she did a really good job in that interview. I think
I have yet to see that.
I think she'll be fine on the microphone. It was kind of funny because other like people on the internet and other women's wrestlers were kind of throwing her shade on that interview because they were like, "Oh yeah, what about the other 30 women that just had a historic night? You don't want to interview them. You only want to interview Ronda Rousey," which I understand where people are coming from for that. But she didn't do a good job she didn't do a bad job, on that interview, and I think that on the mic, I think she'll be fine.
That has yet to be seen, of course, and I'm not saying that she's bad or good on the mic. I was just solely basing my comments on that based on her facials and the way that her facial.
Talking about Paige again, or
no? We're talking about Ronda Rousey pointing at the WrestleMania sign.
My bad.
Frony.
Oh my goodness. Anyways, sucks that Paige wasn't in that match. By the way,
it does.
I
agree.
That's my biggest complaint of the weekend. It sucks. But yeah, we have yet to see how she is on the mic. So one interview is not gonna. We'll see. I'm not gonna speculate. I'm gonna wait and see.
Yeah, we will have to wait and see. And as you said, that the better she does, the more enhanced that moment was. And it can, like we said, it can revisionist history changes a lot of things. But the better Rousey does, the less we'll look back on this as a negative moment. And man, if you think about it, she can be the person that brings the WWE women's division into a whole new category. She can, while it should have been the focus on Asuka, and I did love Asuka slapping her hand away at the end. I thought that was a good little moment as Rousey extended the hand and a kind of a congratulations. I loved Asuka kind of slapping the hand away, but Rousey can do a lot of things for the women in this division. While you might be upset that she's kind of being handed a lot of these things, if you're a Sasha Banks or a Bayley or a Becky Lynch, Rousey might actually give you more attention in the future, give you more money, give the women closer to equal pay, because the top women make like 1/36 of what the top male wrestlers work. And while yes, they have main evented some pay-per-views and more Raws over the last few years than they had in the entire first 22, 23 years of Raw, Ronda Rousey can do a lot of good things for their checkbooks and their exposure as well. So ultimately, this can be a very good thing for all those women who are currently upset with where they stand and how Rousey's appearance overshadowed them.
And here's the thing about all that. That's a built-in storyline for anybody. That's a built-in storyline for Rousey, for her overshadowing the first ever Women's Royal Rumble match. I mean, listen to us. All of us are adamantly against what happened, and it's still a built-in storyline. You can play that. You can play into that. You can have the women upset. You can have the women screw her. You could out of a title. You could have them. She can be the black sheep. Or there's so many routes you can go with that. The whole thing can be used. It can be used as a storyline. Even if the women that are talking smack about her online are, how serious are they? Are they all serious, or is that somewhat of a work? I mean, there's a lot to be seen. I think we got to hold judgment until the next few weeks and leading into WrestleMania and seeing what happens with her there.
That does it for our show today. We hope you enjoyed it. Catch us next time at our regular time,
11 a.m. Central Standard Time.
Hell yeah. And check us out on social media.
Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube. Find us at the Schmozcast.
That's right. And we should be getting some more videos up on our YouTube page over the next couple days. For Chandler and Andre, I am Anthony. Thanks for tuning in. See you next week.
Hi, I'm Hannah. I'm from England, and you're listening to 103.5 The Sun Community Radio, WLSP LP, Sun Prairie, Wisconsin. Enjoy.